Black. Excellent. And now we're going to try this again. Hey everybody, this is John Lofton here with Between the Lines. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate all of you guys. Thank you. Can't say it enough. Oh man, we're going to have a great show here. I got producer Raven in the studio. And today is all about being angry. Being angry. Because we're mad. Our society as a whole, we are angry people. It is, most psychologists say, a natural trait of the human race, if you will. But we're going to discuss that today because I'm actually kind of feeling angry myself. I know I don't see it because I'm all happy. Because I'm always happy being with you guys. But after the show and before the show, I've got some stuff going on today that just is irking me. You know, it's just, it's not any big thing. It never is, right? And I'm going to focus most of the show on how our intake of information as a society leads us to being angry all the time. And we're going to see if any of that kind of holds up. But anyway, whoops, wrong camera. But we're going to see if any of that kind of holds up here, and we're going to try to dissect this down just a little bit, piece by piece. And we're going to see what we can do about our anger that we have every single day. And don't tell me that you are not an angry person. Yes, I'm looking at you sitting there with a bag of Doritos watching the show. I know you. I was on to do that too. Everybody has the tendency to being angry. It is just a natural fact of our human condition and kind of the way that sin into the world, if you look at it from God's perspective, originating from evil sin, and that was one of those things where it's baked into us. We didn't have to learn how to be angry. It wasn't something. Now I agree that some things are, our parents kind of taught us as a kid and what have you, but I honestly think that some of it is generally kind of our own temperament, if you will. So when I was a kid, and I'm going to touch on mental health and kind of how that influences people. Of course, we know that if you have a mental health issue, you're more susceptible for depression and anger and lots of resentment type issues. And I'm no exception to that rule. I struggle with anxiety like you wouldn't believe. I have insomnia like you wouldn't believe. And it never ceases to amaze me how long sometimes it can take me to go to sleep. And it's not because I'm mad all the time when I go to sleep. It's because I just want to do stuff. Like my mind goes a million miles a minute, and I think about, oh, should I go down and work on this little project? Should I fix this? Did I remember to, I don't know, on Wednesday night, did I remember to go and pick up the the garbage from the curb? And oftentimes, those are the things that kind of keep me awake. And I think that it ekes at us, and it's hard for us to let go of some of those things, myself included. And I'm going to be one of those people who's going to destigmatize mental health. If you saw me on the street, and if you see me right now, you'd be like, you don't look like you've got any mental health. You're not crazy. You know what's sanity, but we only know mental health kind of from Hollywood depictions. Sometimes it's hard to see how much our minds affect us on a daily basis. And a lot of that can be influenced by what we watch. What we see on TV, what we watch in the news, the video games we play, even the books you read and say anything that can invoke emotion externally that wasn't brought on by your immediate surroundings, right? It was a choice, can invoke emotion. And oftentimes that's the goal of the TV, right? That's how it grips us. It's how it helps, or not helps, but how it helps them make ratings, and how it keeps your eyes, glued to the TV. And so how did we get there? When I was a kid, I'm not going to lie to you guys. At 14, I was watching Cinemax. And it wasn't on my own. It'd be like, I'd have a sleepover at one of my friend's house, and he's like, hey, my parents got Cinemax. They didn't block it. And yeah, there. So I was exposed to stuff like that early on. Am I proud of it? Looking back, no, not even a little. And I really struggled with mental health, as a teenager. And I really wish maybe some of my external factors could have been a little bit better, Maybe if I had an extra friend that, actually hung around me, maybe if I wasn't bullied so much, maybe if I would have, found Jesus sooner, would I have the same problems that persist no matter how hard you try to change them? How do they keep manifesting themselves, right? And so let's go ahead and talk about that. So some of the things like going on this week that probably got you pretty upset because it's designed to. I know Inside Edition always does I'm not going to say a great job, but I'm going to say an effective job at inciting emotion because it's tabloid. It has to, I wouldn't say stretch the truth. I would say it has to, well, it does stretch the truth in a lot of cases. It doesn't really show perspective, but they do a good job at telling stories, right? That's how they do it. They capture, they're a headline grabbing sort of thing. And one of the things they were talking about this week was this little girl who was kidnapped, seemingly out of the blue, by some guy in a red Dodge Challenger. And 10 minutes later, because the entire, city basically responded to this, they found the child. They arrested the man and got the girl home safe. And I just kind of wonder, of course I was mad. I thought, may God have mercy on his soul and you'd need to die tomorrow. That was my thought. Like, why would you kidnap a child? And then I thought, they didn't say if he had any relation to the child. Is he an uncle? Is he a family? Was he a family friend even? Did he have a reason? I'm not going to say it's a good reason, but or even a logical reason. Did he have some motive? Let's call it that. Did he have a motive to go and take this little girl right off a bicycle on the corner? I mean, it is the epitome of what child abduction looks like and how our minds perceive it. And of course, every time we hear about it, it makes us angry, mad. And how could somebody do that? And then, but you're also elated because the girl was found safe and able to be returned home. And you're like, so many things could have gone wrong in that process. And thankfully, a neighbor caught a license plate and got police involved. But we, watching this, have an array of emotions. And if you were to talk to somebody right after seeing that story, I imagine those emotions would probably be outwardly expressed to somebody else, even if you weren't necessarily mad or upset with them. But your thought, your tone of voice would have probably reflected your emotion after watching that story. Another story that would happen, obviously, over these last, almost 2 weeks now, was the condominium building that collapsed in Florida. And our hearts bleed basically for all of those people, the numerous people they're finding now dead, and the very precious few survivors there were. And you can hear it in my own voice. Look, do you notice how to use the word precious? What does precious mean? And I did that intentionally. What does precious, if I said something is precious, it softens your heart, right? As soon as you hear that word, you think about, you instantly almost emotionally hang on to that word. That word means something. That word incites something. And if you watch news and TV and all of that, if you really pay attention to what I'm going to call trigger words, you'll notice that there's a pattern to it. The antagonist is going to make you angry because the headline, let's go back to the child abduction story. The headline was, man abducts child right off sidewalk. Angry. And then you get a minute into the story and child is found safe. Child is found safe. And then you're like relieved and all that. And it messes with us. And I honestly think that media as a whole, not anyone particular, and I've been kind of harping on this whole like media influence sort of thing, these past couple weeks. And I gotta believe maybe it's starting to get to me even personally, even subconsciously. Maybe I'm starting to become a little bit, bitter to the whole things that are going on in our world. And I've always kind of been that way. And as you know, my day job, I work for the news. So it isn't like I can completely shut it off, but I do try to tune it out. At work, I focus on my job. I focus on the technical aspects of it, but I try not to absorb the information as a viewer. I simply absorb it from a technical perspective. And that is the only way I think I stay sane over these past 2.5 years, is I try not to think about the story itself. I just care, is the volume good? Am I keeping up with the words that they're saying? Is my shot in focus? Is my headroom good? Am I listening to the director? I focus really, really hard on the director, and all of those things. That's how I deal with it emotionally, because there are so many things. Because I'm sure, like a lot of you have a heart. As soon as you know something's wrong in this world, you immediately almost have empathy for them. Left, right, blue, black, whatever. It doesn't matter. Whoever you are, you probably have some empathy towards the situation. And you sort of kind of get a narrative in a story, in a movie. And all you really care about is the antagonist, the villain, if you will, gets defeated or captured or whatever. That is your goal. And I feel like, even for me, it kind of outwardly expresses, and it, over a long, long period of time, I think maybe it causes us to kind of absorb and then to reflect some of that. Maybe I would even go so far as to say, how much, for the stuff that you watched as a kid and as a teenager or a young adult, going now, maybe you're in your 30s or 40s or even older, how much of that do you think kind of reflected off of you? I think about our military veterans. I think about the guys who served in Vietnam. I think about the Gulf War folks, and those physical experiences, the things that actually happened, the bloodshed, the trauma. You got to believe that it affected them. And if those experiences had not happened, would they be the same person as they are today, as you are today? So what I'm saying is, in a roundabout way, try to focus on the things that you can control when you hear the news. You can control your reaction if you have a mind that says, I'm not going to allow myself to get triggered, let's say, by that word precious, even if it is a good emotion, or the attacker, right? You hear that sometimes, or the suspect. The way they say the word suspect, it instantly invokes guilt and immediately invokes that judgment. I wish we had a different word for it, because, at least in America, you're innocent until proven guilty. Okay, that may apply to court, but that does not apply to public opinion. Not even a little. It's the exact opposite. I mean, you're guilty if a group of people get online and say your name in a bad context. Guilty. And it doesn't really matter if you won your court case, because if people already made up their mind, I mean, think about how many people are really ticked off that Bill Cosby's, he didn't necessarily get acquitted, but his conviction got thrown out. I'm not sure if they'll retry him, because he's got some major health issues. Like, he's been totally blind for like 10 years, I heard. He's got other chronic issues. I mean, he's not in great shape. I mean, being honest here. So, I mean, what good is prison going to do him at this age? That's kind of my thought. And I was even watching a documentary, trying not to get too off topic, about, people in prison who are getting older. And you watch people die from like COPD even. You watch cancer people in prison. And yeah, it hurts, because you kind of wonder, these people are so, old. How could they possibly reoffend or do the same crime that they did when they were younger? Now, if you do a crime at age 70 and it's pretty bad, then yeah, I'm sorry, you're going to be spending the rest of your life in jail. But if you committed something and you're like 19, 20, what good is it to keep that person in prison when they're 70? If they're serving a life sentence, what good is it to keep them in prison when they're like 70 or 80 years old? All it does is, remember, as you get older, you get sicker. You get sicker and sicker, because our bodies are not designed to last. And my point here is, over time, our influences, they change. you got to believe that someone who spent 40 or 50 years in prison probably isn't nearly the same person they were when they came in. And I think about that too when we think about crime and all of that. Like, yeah, this person should spend a very, very long time in prison, but I'm not sure about life sentences anymore because, well, one, it's expensive for us taxpayers. I mean, if that's the bottom line, if that helps you make you feel better about the situation, it costs like $500,000, even more for a single inmate in cases. Because as long as they're alive, our United States prison system still says that, they just have basic medical treatment. And how are they going to pay for it? They have no money. They're locked up. They're maybe earning $1 a month if they do custodial work. I mean, let's think about this. And I don't think that they should be able to just go out and make $1 million and all that. Like you definitely going to be like house arrest for the rest of their life, but keeping them in prison doesn't do anybody any good. And I don't feel like, now if there's a death sentence, which I'm still a proponent for the death penalty in some cases, then of course, but they shouldn't be going into prison at age 20 and then finally getting an injection at 70. I don't feel like that's right either. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Sorry to get off topic, but I think about the way that we change over time because of the things that influence us, the things that make us angry, the things that maybe cause us to have an outburst of anger. Have you ever gotten just mad at your child? Right? I do it almost every day because as parents, we just want our kids to behave. This is so hard for them to behave. Is it so tough? And you wonder about, at least I do. I wonder about some of these child abuse cases. Like, what is the parent like underneath? Was it honestly a one-time thing and they spanked their child too hard and it left a mark? Is that what we're going to say as an unfit parent completely? Or could this parent be helped by actually getting help for maybe an underlying mental health? I'm not condoning child abuse, by the way. I just want to think about a situation differently than the way that we always get presented with it. I could be wrong in the way that I'm thinking. I'm not an expert at this. I'm just a guy who just wants to share a different perspective with everybody who... When we look at things, it's easy for us to want to follow a narrative that's being presented to us because it's easy. It doesn't make our minds think, and it's exciting because it does accentuate those emotions. And I think there's 2 solutions to this, and I got about 10 minutes left here, so we're going to try to make these fairly short descriptions. But what if, when we're angry and we're feeling completely frustrated, what if it were just possible not to vent? Because I actually was reading in my research that a lot of psychologists think that actually venting can almost be more damaging than if you learned how to redirect the emotion in the first place. And the reason being is because if you're angry, it can escalate. Like you tell yourself, I'm only going to get angry, or I'm only going to hit my hand really hard on the table. Just that's all I'm going to do. That's all it'll ever be. I just need to hit my hand or something really hard because I'm mad. And then it becomes, I'm going to punch a wall, or I'm going to just scream, right? You're going to get loud because you want to do something. Like, you should watch me watching football. That's how I get. Like, I don't even know why. It's just fun to be mad during a football game for me. I yell at the refs even though I know they can't hear me, because you want to have these rules and these structures and you want to root for your team, and you're completely biased because we have our favorite team. And yeah, like I said, this doesn't go along TV shows and all that. It invokes in sports too. The things that we're supposed to have like some escape in can also make us angry and have a lot of negative emotions if we let it get to us the wrong way. A ref calls something wrong. You're watching baseball, and these guys in the major leagues are throwing 100-mile-an-hour baseballs, and then you have a umpire who calls a strike when you're like, no, that was outside of the box. And this ref is eyeballing this object flying at a catcher's glove at 100 miles an hour. You think you might just take a little bit of a step. I want to see all of you guys get behind an umpire. I haven't done it myself. I'd be scared. I'd be like, that umpire better not, or the catcher better not miss, because I don't want a 100-mile-an-hour ball. Like, that would be nerve-wracking for me to be on the receiving end or anywhere near the receiving end of a 100-mile-an-hour baseball. I think about a ref in a bad call who says, no, the runner was out of bounds or it wasn't a complete catch. We have replay. That's cool. But it doesn't stop a living ref from making a call based on their 2 eyeballs, which our eyes are not perfect. I would like to see a study actually on how refs get trained to be able to see this stuff and make these split-second decisions if a rule was violated or if something was out of bounds, or how do they go about that? Now in football, there's like 4 refs, right? We have a head ref and then like 3 or 4 or 3 others around the field watching different angles. You have a sideline ref. You have a ref that usually is behind, the quarterback, behind the scene, and you have a couple others around, other places around the field, because you got to watch everything. Because a 10-second play, there's a lot of dynamics that happen. You got to look for holds, even from people who weren't even touching the ball. So just think about that. That's all I'm saying here is whether it's someone getting accused for child abuse or when a building collapsed, let's try to look at this in different perspectives, and perhaps that might change our mindset. I'm not saying you can't be angry about it, but I'm saying do not let it consume the way that you think. Don't let it be the thing that consumes your emotion, and try not to let it be the outburst. In your own personal surroundings, when people do you wrong, like I'll just share real quickly. The thing that does me wrong mostly is when somebody tells me they're going to do something and then they don't do it. I can't tell you how much that bothers me. It means a lot to me to hold myself to that same standard. And so I expect others to have that same standard. Do not tell me that you're going to do something and then not fall through. If there's a delay and it's reasonable, like actually believable, like, you're supposed to come over here and maybe help me out with something around the house, or let's say you asked me to meet you somewhere to fix something at your place. It would bother me if I wasn't there on time. But if I got a call from you and I would already have let's say I already had my tools and everything that I needed for the job, and I had it all in my car, and I was, and we're about to leave, and you call me and say, no, never mind, I ended up getting this other guy to do it, don't worry about coming over. I figured it might be easier for you, and that way you don't have to come over. I'm going to be like, I'm going to be the nice guy around in that, and I'm going to be like, oh, it's okay, thanks, appreciate it, have a good one, bye. But meanwhile, I'm thinking, I already have my tools packed up, I'm already heading out the door, I already blocked out this portion of the day for you. Think about that, folks. And I'll tell you another thing that bothers me real quick. The things that, and I'm telling you, and I'm going to tell you real quick how I'm dealing with it. Another thing that kind of really irks me is, when people think, because of my health conditions or my eyesight issues and things like that I'm not going to be able to do something, and they want to save me the trouble or have it taken easy on me. I cannot stand that one bit. If anyone who has a disability, you completely relate to me. You probably, if anything that's physical, that's obvious, like you guys see my eyes, like they run everywhere. That's why I typically don't much like being on camera. And I hope you guys understand. I've explained this because I have really bad nystagmus and glaucoma. So my eyes are just, and I've had numerous eye surgeries. So it's a miracle I can see the way I can even now. So just you guys have to understand that. And I'm glad I've never gotten a comment about it. I've never received negativity for it. It's something that I can't control with my eye movements anyway. I can do it for a little while, but then they just do whatever they want to do. Anyway, so back to my point though, it bothers me when people try to be nice by saying, don't worry about it, Odie, we got this taken care of. You don't have to trouble yourself. If I tell you I'm going to do something or that I can do something, it means I can do it. And I promise I will be able to tell you that when a situation comes up that I can't do, or that I don't feel comfortable with. I can be honest about that. I hate it when people assume that someone can or cannot do something. I think that each individual needs to be able to speak up for themselves about what they can, and we shouldn't have the judgment from other people as to what we can or cannot do or what our abilities are. So those are the things that make me personally really, really angry. And it happens to me daily, every day, it seems like. Just the pressures in life, the pressures from work, and that bothers me too at work, because of that I'm surprised they still let me on a camera with my eyesight. There's things like I've asked to do different jobs that are a little bit more visual. And I feel like it's even been openly expressed that can I see it? And I just want the shot to see if I can see it, right? I need to know what are the things that I would be looking at most common in a room, and do I have an adaptation to do it? But as of yet, never even given the opportunity, never even getting the chance to kind of get an overview, from the people doing it, even though I know that position is like desperately needed. Have you ever had that at work too? Like you apply for a job. I know a good friend of mine, her name is Debbie. She really wanted a job where she works, and she's gone through the process twice now, and she didn't get it. And she's upset about it. I read her Facebook post and all that, and I was just like, yeah, I would be upset too. If you know you're good at the job, you know that it's a job that's needed, and yet you still keep getting denied over and over, it can make you frustrated. So here's my final pitch to you guys, whether it's news, whether it's work, life, kids, whatever. Let's try to think about this in a different perspective. And let's also be cognizant on the way that we talk to others. Let's be cognizant about what we're going to say to them and how we're going to say it, and then follow through with it. Let's just follow through, be considerate, and then when you hear something about a criminal or a sad situation on the news, it's okay to have that emotion. But it's what you do with that emotion that'll determine your day or your week, or even influence you for the way that you look at things for the rest of your life. You have to make a conscientious, deliberate decision about how you're going to control your emotions. How are you going to deal with it? And so that's all I got. I mean, it's that simple, really. So I hope that meant a lot to you guys today. As always, a lot of my stability now comes from my faith in Christ. And if you guys haven't heard about Jesus, I think it's a good way to start. And that's just my honest opinion about how to deal with these type of emotions and these type of issues. It's sound and true teaching. It really is. And it's saved my life, my spiritual life. And it's not perfect, but at least I'm grounded in something. At least I have something that is meaningful, that gives me purpose, that's grounding me, that gives me a direction to go in. And I think that all of you guys need to find that direction too. I would very strongly encourage you that. All right, that is today's show. Let me go through a couple house notes here for you in our last minute here. So we are still working on BTL-LIVE.com. I've actually been working on some home projects here recently with home automation, the Stream Deck, and all that. So it should make our house life a little bit easier, but that's been consuming a lot of my free time. So I haven't had a lot of chance, just being honest with you guys and transparent. But this show is important to me. I don't show up to this show just willy-nilly. In fact, I'm researching throughout the week different topics, different things that I want to discuss on Sundays. And then if I'm not in the studio by 1 p.m. on Sunday, I'm not getting on the air by 4. It literally takes, the 3 hours to get ready for this whole thing. So, all right, folks, that's all I got today. Thank you so much for tuning in to Between the Lines. We are working on this stuff. Please like and subscribe. Comment below with your thoughts. We will see you guys next week right here on Between the Lines at 4 p.m. Central.